Hi, I'm Neal Hearn with Boxes by Neal. This is one of my finished boxes, all nicely copper-plated with an agate and a nice handmade copper handle. Because each piece of glass was made as a one-of-a-kind piece using the agate as a guideline, the boxes are all one-of-a-kind, with the glass being custom-made for that specific box. Now I'm going to show you how I make the tops of the glass boxes. The boxes start off with a piece of Bullseye Tecta clear glass, cut to about 1/4 inch larger than the box will be. I use the Bullseye powders and frits for colors, and I use a liquid agent to liquefy the powders and then put them on with a brush. Here I'm using Bullseye glass tack to liquefy some medium amber Bullseye powder. It's a little dry now. We need a little bit more of the glass tack in here so that we'll be able to let the material flow onto the glass. A little bit more in there, and I sort of mix it up with my palette knife. Sometimes I'll use the palette knife to put some powders out onto the glass, and that works well also. But today we're going to be using an artist brush. So now that we've got it all nice and mixed up, it's kind of like molasses, I suppose. Here, I'm just dabbing in some of the medium amber color that we just mixed up. I'll dab it in with the brush, and then I can push it around. Working with the wet powders, it allows me to let the colors flow together. Here we're going to put a little of this medium amber on the back of this box alongside some Bullseye French vanilla. Going to give us a nice reactive line right where the two meet each other. Understanding how the powders react with each other and what powders react, and understanding how the glass is going to fuse, what the colors will look like when they come out. This is an important thing that you can only learn by experimenting and learning more about it. Put a little of this in with this Bullseye True Blue. The True Blue color is also going to give us some reaction when it's fired to temperature. Everything will change a little as we fire to higher temperatures. That's why it's so important to experiment and learn how it all works together. And you can just sort of dab a little along this edge here, once again, against some of that French vanilla. The glass powders that are already on there are already wet. As you can sort of see in the video, they have a wet look to them. They are wet, therefore it's letting this new color I'm adding in sort of start flowing into the old color. It's one of the reasons that I like wetting the powders. It allows me to let colors flow together, kind of like it was an oil painting or a watercolor, but instead we're painting on a piece of glass. Move this over a little. Now we'll put a little on this box top. You can sort of see now where I've outlined what the final size of the top will be with the black marker, and you can see there's about 1/4 inch or so of glass bigger than it is going to be before we fire it. I've got it a little bit more liquefied here, and that's going to allow it to flow even more. You'll get a chance to see it flow on here. Another thing that's important to understand is there are two types of Bullseye glass and powders. There is the transparent and opalescent. If you're dealing with the opalescent colors, it's going to be very vivid. If you're dealing with transparent colors like this medium amber, it's going to take a little bit more of it to give you a vivid color. Sometimes we'll enhance that by adding additional powders to it, and I'll show you that shortly. Let's get some more in on this one. You just keep working the colors of your choice until you finally get it looking like you really want it to. There's no right or wrong here. This is just a matter of your artistic feel. I like to keep my powders in these small containers. And if you've got some wetted down and you don't use all of it, you can use it again the next time. Just add some more glass tack or whatever wetting medium that you decide to use. I like the glass tack because the glass tack adds a little glue, and when it dries, it'll stay in place while I get it to the kiln. Here I'm going to intensify some of those colors. This is the true blue, and what I've got in my little scoop here now is the fine frit, and I'm just going to add it in over the top of the true blue color that I put on earlier. All this is going to do is intensify. The true blue is a transparent color, and this will intensify that color. I want it to be very dominant when it's fired. And I've sort of learned I have to intensify these transparents. Sometimes you want a transparent look. There again, this is all a determination that you will make as you learn to use the Bullseye products. Bullseye products are superior, give me good results. I've used them for many, many years. They're reliable and very forgiving. Sometimes that's a very valuable asset. There are many other types on the market. The Tecta glass that you see me using here is also, of course, the Bullseye product. This is the 3 mil Tecta that I use for the glass. With all the powder on top of it, when it's fired out, it's going to be somewhere between 3/16 inch and 1/4 inch thick. Now, I've done a design previously using the agates. You can see the agate sitting above each one of the panels that's going to fit into that open space. There's an agate, and of course it will fit into that open space. So I took my design and I sketched it onto the glass to give me an idea of where I want to put colors. Now we're going to do a final step. I'm going to use my fine brush, and I'm going to use this is the marigold, pretty yellow, one of my favorite colors. I'm going to use it to put in some accents. So we're going to get the fine brush, just using some water to clean it off. Take the palette knife here and get it all mixed in together. Get us a nice little puddle of it so that we can use it. Sometimes when we're doing just a little bit of highlighting, I want to get it maybe a little wetter so it's going to flow around a little bit more. Get it mixed up good, and then take my small brush, very fine tipped brush, because I don't want to get a great deal of it out onto the, give you an idea about what consistency I have it now. We're just going to try to use this fine brush now to put in some accent color in various places. I love using the marigold along with this pequod green. It really, really highlights it and comes out real pretty, as you'll see later. You just add it wherever you feel like you want some highlights, and of course you could highlight with many colors. Really, there again, it's your artistic creativeness that's going to tell you exactly what to do. But there's another thing I like about using the wet powders. They allow me so much versatility in gaining color in the tops of the boxes. Makes for a real special product. Now, these are going to put a little bit over here on top of this. This is the light aquamarine that I'm putting the marigold yellow on top of. That marigold is going to be a pretty golden yellow color when it comes out. And that light aquamarine is also quite reactive. A reaction is when two glasses that are made up of different substance are side by side in the kiln, and the heat causes a reactive element to happen. You'll see it in the final product, and it will be adding a great deal of character. You can use it to a great design, plus if you understand how the colors work together. Put some in here around this French vanilla. French vanilla is very reactive. Bullseye is nice and gives us a chart showing us what reacts with what. Okay, so now we're going to have a final step. Now I've just got a cup of just glass tack, and I'm going to take this medium brush, not adding any color, and all I'm really doing now is taking the glass tack and flowing colors together. You can just flow colors together all you want. That's the beauty of using it wet. You can get it to very much look like you've done it with the pastels or with watercolors or with oil, but in fact we're using a dry powder that we've wetted down. There are pre-mixed enamels available out there, but I really choose to stay with the Bullseye product, and I get the great results from using the powders. You can see the agate sitting beside each box that's going to be in the center of that box. I like to keep it laying out there so I can see the colors in the agate. The agate themselves have suggested the design and suggested the colors that I might decide to use in the top of a box. And we'll do this until we're satisfied. They're getting some of that marigold yellow to flow in. This is just a fraction of the many colors that are offered in the powders. The powders are available at most all of your glass dealers. You can also, if you chose to use some off-the-shelf glass-type enamels that are made by many companies, they would be compatible with the Bullseye product. You have to be sure that two products you mix together are compatible. If they're not compatible, you'll find out when you've used it. Now I'm using some coarse Bullseye frit. This happens to be the French vanilla. I want to get some areas of texture. This is not going to fuse down quite as flat as the other will, and it's going to give me a nice textured area. Also, since the French vanilla is very reactive with other things, it'll give me some more interest, some more definition of color as I do the boxes. I'm putting it on top of the wet powder, and if it gets somewhere it shouldn't be, I can just sort of drag it around like I want it. The coarse frit, of course, is much larger pieces, so it's going to maintain that texture at the temperatures I'm going to fire to, while the powders are going to lay down as flat colors. Get a little in here. Oh, I really like that pea pod green, one of my favorites. So now we're ready to go to our final steps. I want to just do a little final blending together of things with my medium brush and with the glass tack. Anywhere that you want to drag colors one over the other, you can do that. Just get enough of this in there and let it flow together. See how there it's beginning to flow. That marigold is flowing into that light aquamarine color, and that's going to give us some really interesting box tops. Okay, just about ready with it now. So we'll get on to our final step, which is to fuse it. Here they are. They've been fused. 24 hours back they were fused, and here is the output. I've laid the agates on top. I've drawn some black lines in to show where the cut will be. You can see the darker areas where the reactions happened, and that's how I make the tops for my boxes. Join me next time, and I'll show you more about how I make my fused glass boxes.